Today we are going to talk about the Cairo 2018 Water Week, which kicked off yesterday in Cairo, a very important conference aimed at increasing the public awareness of the water rationalization and for sustainable development. His Excellency President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met with many heads of the delegations participating in the summit, and to shed more light about that Water Week which kicked off in Cairo, we are very much delighted to have with us in the studio Ms. Dr. Iman Rajab Noval. She is a researcher at the Ministry of Irrigation and Water Resources, the National Water Research Center. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Good morning, Doctor. Now, if you could please start by giving us a general idea about the aims and more details about the Cairo Water Week.
Okay. Well, the story started by, of course, Egypt is much aware of the importance of water, not just from today, but years and years ago. But with the increasing awareness, increasing day by day, and with the regular water weeks spreading all over the world, just like Singapore and Stockholm, where there is a week tackling all the subjects of water, the high important subjects of water. Here in Egypt, we started doing the same. The President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi took the initiative and started with the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation to initiate the idea of the Cairo Water Week. This year was the first round of this hopefully annually week. So the week is going to tackle all related aspects of water in the regional, national, regional and international scales.
Yeah.
It will focus on the water security, also on the food security, because they're related to each other.
Yes.
It aims to increase the awareness of the importance of water. The week will be just like a platform to promote the awareness and foster innovative approaches to face the most pressing water-related challenges, and also to update the water stakeholders on the global movements to address water challenges and identify modern tools and techniques for managing the water resources. And being there as a platform will help sharing the experiences on all scales between the water managers, the water stakeholders, the national and international organizations, the fund donors as well, trying to getting new solutions for all the you can say problems or challenges better that we're facing now.
What about the participants in the Water Week, Dr. Noval?
Well, the participation is very high. We have highly national and regional and international participations. We have more than 500 participants till now. The countries are just all over the world. Of course, we have highly African participation, and from Europe, from the States. Also, we have most of the international organizations participating in water field. They are covering the events of the week together with the Ministry of Water Resources, and they are all doing whatever it's needed to just raise the standard of this week and be an excellent platform and continuous for the other years to work on.
Yes. Dr. Iman, the conference aims at increasing the public awareness of water rationalization for sustainable development. In your own opinion, how can we achieve such target? How can we make the best way to manage and preserve the water in order to achieve sustainable development?
Well, first let's highlight the importance of water. And let's quote Da Vinci's quote for water: water is the driving force of all nature. So by this well known before, and we all know it, and to achieve the sustainable development, which means to preserve the water, the amount of water, clean and plenty for us and for other generations to use later. the key here is to manage. So management of these resources is the key to achieve the sustainable development. So if we're talking about water, fresh water is only 3% of the available water on the planet, and 70% of this water is used by agriculture. And of course, this agriculture is much needed to satisfy the security of the food. And with the increasing population all around the world, and here also in Egypt, we need to satisfy this, to secure the water and food in Egypt and for all the region around. So the country is now exerting efforts to face these challenges, and these challenges are not only the food security and water security, but also the climate change, the urbanization, consumption of the resources. Egypt in its Vision 2030 for the Sustainable Development Agenda is focusing on the water as a key factor for future development, given the constraints and challenges we're facing now. And that's the effort we're doing, exerting more efforts and focusing and resolving these challenges.
Indeed. Doctor, the 4-day conference is being held in cooperation with the European Union and the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, to tackle water issues amid climate change that impact the world fresh water. How do you see the impact of the climate change on the water scarcity and the problems that and the challenges that occurs because of the climate change on the water, and how can we actually stand for that?
Well, the climate change is happening. Either we like it or not. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we need to be aware and we need to be ready to face it. So the climate change is significantly impacting our water resources, either by flooding or by droughts, and it's also not only affecting the water resources. It also affects the human health and the, all the aspects related to environment. And management should be done by highlighting the impact of this climate change on the ecosystem and on the environment as a whole, and trying to assess the impact of this climate change in terms of availability and quantity. So if it's more water or less water in other countries, and also the quality of the water, which will be affected by the climate change. For example, in our Cairo week, we're trying to shed light on the experiences and on the examples that has been done in other countries, and the examples or our experiences here in Egypt in the field of water management practices to mitigate the climate change, and also to present the success stories and new approaches for the integrated water management and for the crop management to cope with the climate change. So we can, for example, investigate new crops that tolerate the high temperature, the high salinity, and also to use less water. Also, we increase the water efficiency by increasing the irrigation and drainage systems in Egypt. Also investigating the uncertainty of the climate change. The uncertainty of the climate change is an issue that we need to hide, because it is still happening. It's not happening now, it will happen. So by trying to get accurate estimates or forecasting about tomorrow or 10 years later about the climate change that will happen and will affect us is a very initial point that we need to tackle. So highlighting the uncertainty and trying to decrease it as much as we can is our aim for the easy future implementation, or for easier development in ensuring the sustainability of the water resources.
Okay. Dr. Iman, how can the Cairo Water Week be a good chance to exchange expertise and face the challenges on both the regional and international levels? Because you mentioned something very important about, for example, cultivation methods, and here in Egypt we had a problem of cultivating rice, which consumes large amounts of water. an experience that have been successfully implemented in other countries. So how can this event be a good chance to exchange expertise in so many aspects?
Yes, that is exactly the aim of the week, being a platform, having a platform for all the professionals working in the water field to work together and exchange this knowledge. Well, there are countries who already succeeded in cultivating certain crops with very low water, with certain techniques, and for example, doing such new techniques in the irrigation and drainage system. So, in the Cairo week, all these professionals meet together, present their work, learn from each other, and we as a country also present our experiences to other neighboring countries or international fields, so we can all learn from each other, and trying to find new crops, as we already discussed, trying to find new cultivation methods, and we already have success stories in such fields. For example, if we're talking about rice, we already did that before and succeeded in cultivating rice with less water and at the same time having more productivity than the traditional methods. And also in the week, we merge with all the stakeholders, not only the professionals, so the farmers can see these new techniques and learn from it. So that's the key of the...
Yeah. Dr. Iman, this year's Water Week is launched under the title of Water Conservation and for Sustainable Development. How do you see that, and how can we conserve actually the usage of water in order to reach sustainable development?
Well, sustainable development means that we need to be in a good position.
Indeed.
In a long time, or in an easier way, forever, to sustain being good. So to do that, we have limited resources, and water in Egypt is one of these limited resources that we have. And also with the urbanization going on everywhere and with the decrease on the old lands, so the challenge is high. So now we're exerting efforts in trying to manage the amount of water, finding new techniques for water reuse, so we can fulfill the gap between the demand and the availability. And Egypt is one of the countries which is having a good experience in water reuse, because this is mainly our way of compensating this gap.
I was just going to ask you about this, about the recycling of water.
Yeah.
Because I attended a conference that was held last year in Alexandria where it was dedicated for water, and one of the participants talked about, for example, how we can recycle water that is, for example, used in cooling in large factories, and how can they use certain technique in order to recycle such amounts of water instead of wasting them totally, which was the old technique. So how do you see that?
Yes, that's the case now, and the country is doing, and the ministry is doing huge efforts in this field, because we have to reuse the water. Either the water is from agriculture reuse, drainage water, or from cooling
factories.
Exactly. So there are certain treatment that can be done for the water to be adequate for using again for agriculture. We're using it in agriculture mainly. The reuse is only used in agriculture. So we're treating the water in a certain way to be available in other places to be reused again. We're also increasing the efficiency of the irrigation. We're increasing the efficiency of the drainage. We're trying to regulate the use of the fertilizers, the chemical fertilizers, to control the quality of water in a good way. And of course, the monitoring. The monitoring is a key point here, because we need to monitor the quality of the reused water through monitoring it all around the country. We have a monitoring system, network which covers the entire area, that monitors the quality of water So we are sure before giving it to a farmer that it's good, that it can be used. And also the country is trying to regulate any dumping through the waterways or in the for the unlicensed factories or something that are dumping contaminants through the water, and stopping them and forcing them to treat it before discharging them again.
Okay. So, one of the files that would be tackled during the conference is the availability of the drinking water. So how can this conference and such conferences and such water weeks help in the find of the availability of drinking water and finding other alternatives for providing maybe desalination, maybe other ways of providing drinking water for the countries?
Well, drinking water and sanitation is a basic human rights, and the country is doing excessive efforts to provide all the people with services. And if we are talking about desalination, the country now are investing in the field of desalination, also to trying to fulfill the gap between the demand and the availability.
Yep.
And it is starting to work. It was already working in the coastal areas, and now with the countries, not only with the private sectors, we are increasing the plants that do that to increase the amount of desalinated water, and trying to find also suitable ways to discharge the brine water which is resulted from the desalination process. And for that, we're trying to deliver potable water for all the people around the country. To do so, we also need funding, and that is one of the aims of the week, to find the fund mobilization in the country to do so. And the private sector has to also to share. So by funding, we can ensure the achievement of this issue, and also to achieve the sustainable development goals, to maintain and expand the water and sanitation services to all. And also we're trying to discuss or investigate the cost effectiveness of this issue, how to try to find effective solutions with low cost, and at the same time providing good water and sanitation for all people. And all the partners here in Cairo or in Egypt are working together to trying to fulfill that, working closely to know the new approaches and knowledges in the related aspects. For example, like drinking water guidelines and regulations, in the water safety planning, also in water supply management, and the new techniques in water treatment and safe storage, sanitation, hygiene, and wastewater facilities and management, monitoring of drinking water hygiene and sanitation, and also the environmental protection. So these are all the factors we're trying to highlight now and investigate throughout our work, and also throughout the week, trying to provide the water and sanitation to all.
Okay. Dr. Iman, the conference will also tackle the role of science and technology in the water development. So how can we make use of both and of the different research centers regarding such issue?
Well, technology are the vehicles to any effective progress in the development. So by innovation, we can open new horizons and bring new opportunities for coping to the water scarcity happening all around the world. And by sharing and exchanging the knowledge and information among all the professionals of water all around the country and all around the region, and also increasing the social and economic value of the water.
Yes.
And this can be done through several steps. We can do it by trying to find innovative solutions to minimize leaks in water distribution networks, and also by finding new ways for improving wastewater efficiency, and using new and modern irrigation systems, and also by shifting to clean energy in the water extractions in the groundwater to try to minimize the extraction rates by using, for example, solar or wind to sustain the water resources itself, and by using the new techniques and in the remote sensing, also the remote sensing applications. It's now used extensively in the water resources fields, and also by trying to investigate the latest solutions and greatest technologies in the rainwater harvesting and the artificial groundwater recharge.
Yes. Doctor, also one of the topics of concern and topping the agenda of the Cairo Water Week is the transboundary water governance and benefits. How do you see that topic, and how by exchanging expertise between the different participating countries in that domain, we could actually find solutions and beat the challenges that the countries are facing regarding that issue?
Well, transboundary is a essential issue here, as 70% of the world population depends on transboundary water.
Yeah.
So that's why it's very important, and if we're focusing about Egypt, well, Egypt is depending solely about transboundary water also from the Nile. So the cooperation in the transboundary field is the key here, and it's essential to sustain the resource between the neighboring, between all the basin countries, and also to adapt the solutions facing the climate change that affects this resource. Here in Egypt, we're working extensively on the regional development. We're setting plans to achieve the sustainable development between all the basin countries for securing and development the common water resources by reducing the conflicts, by sharing experiences between all the water-related fields. We work extensively together, lots of projects. Also by highlighting the governance challenges associated with the transboundary cooperation in terms of climate change and water scarcity, and presenting possible solution to promote the cooperation between these countries. The country are with the other countries, and it's done the same between all the transboundary water partners. They always try to find innovative tools to ensure the water security for all, not that one come on the other one. So by doing agreements, that is what is done. By collaborating in the research projects, by implementation of development projects. And one of the projects that we're trying to initiate these days, and also the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is working on it, the linking between the Lake Victoria and the Mediterranean Sea, to find a navigation corridor channel between the Nile Basin countries. So this project they are investigating now, linking all the Nile Basin countries together. And of course, the benefit will come to all by achieving the African development and integration between all these countries, and to provide support trade and tourism movement, and provide employment opportunities, and also to increase the opportunity for the land blocked countries to access the open seas and the ports. And this way we can all benefit, this way we can all sustain the resource, and at the same time reach the security, which is the key. If one of the countries of the basin has issues in security, then all the other countries will be affected. So we need all to work together to achieve and ensure the security of all the countries sharing the same water and sharing all the
Indeed, Dr. Iman Rajab Nofal, researcher at the Ministry of Irrigation and Water Resources at the National Water Resource Center. Thank you very much for being our guest for today.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine.
Thank you, Dr. Iman. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be right back to resume this morning's edition of the Breakfast Show right after a short break.